At exactly 72 years old, you've done everything right. You saved, you invested, you built a $2 million retirement portfolio, and somehow you're still paying more taxes than you expected. Not because you made a mistake, but because the system was never designed to be simple. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In retirement, it's not how much you have that matters most. It's how you take it out. And if you get that wrong, you can quietly lose hundreds of thousands of dollars without ever noticing. So let's walk through what the perfect $2 million retirement spending plan actually looks like. If your goal is to keep more of what you earned, because the real game starts after you retire. Imagine two retirees, same age, same $2 million portfolio, same lifestyle. Both spend about $80,000 a year, and on paper identical. But one of them pays almost zero in taxes, and the other slowly drifts into higher brackets, triggers hidden penalties, and ends up paying six figures in taxes over time. The difference isn't luck, it's sequencing, where the money comes from each year, because not all dollars are equal anymore. By the time you retire, your money is usually split into three buckets. First, taxable accounts, brokerage accounts. Second, tax-deferred accounts, like traditional IRAs or 401ks. Third, tax-free accounts, like Roth IRAs. Three buckets, three completely different tax rules. And here's where it gets interesting. Most people assume the strategy is simple. Spend your taxable account first, then your IRA, then your Roth. It sounds logical. It's also often wrong, because it ignores how the tax system actually behaves over time. Let's zoom in. At age 72, something quietly kicks in. Required minimum distributions, RMDs. The government basically says, you've delayed taxes long enough. Time to start paying. And they don't ask how much you want to withdraw. They tell you how much you must withdraw. If your IRA is large, those forced withdrawals can push your income much higher than expected. Higher income means higher tax brackets. It can also increase taxes on your Social Security, even affect Medicare premiums. It's like a slow domino effect most people don't see coming. So the perfect plan doesn't wait until 72 to think about taxes. It starts earlier, much earlier. Right around retirement, say age 60 to 70, there's a window, and a strange, quiet window where your income might actually be low, no salary, Social Security not fully turned on yet, no RMDs yet, which means you have control, and control is where tax savings live. Here's where the strategy shifts. Instead of avoiding taxes completely, you start paying some taxes on purpose, carefully, gradually. This is where Roth conversions come in. You move money from your traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. You pay tax now, at a lower rate, and in return, that money grows tax-free forever. More importantly, it reduces your future RMDs, less forced income later, less tax pressure later. This is the part that feels backwards. You're voluntarily creating a tax bill to avoid a much bigger one in the future, and most people resist it, because paying taxes now feels like a loss, even when it's mathematically smarter. Let's put numbers to it. You retire at 60 with $2 million, half in a traditional IRA, half in a taxable account. You need $80,000 per year. Instead of just living off your taxable account, you withdraw maybe $40,000 from taxable and convert another $40,000 from your IRA into a Roth. You stay within a reasonable tax bracket. You repeat this for several years. By the time RMDs arrive, your IRA is smaller, your Roth is bigger, and your future tax burden is dramatically reduced. Same lifestyle, different outcome. Now here's where things get even more subtle. Social Security. Most people think it's either taxed or not, but it's not that simple. Up to 85% of your Social Security can become taxable, depending on your combined income, and that includes your withdrawals. So if your RMDs are large, they can indirectly cause your Social Security to be taxed more heavily. It's a hidden multiplier, which means every dollar you pull from the wrong account can have a ripple effect across everything else. And then there's capital gains. In a taxable account, long-term capital gains can actually be taxed at 0% if your income stays below certain thresholds. 0. But only if you manage your income carefully. This creates a strange opportunity. You can intentionally realize gains and pay no tax on them. But if your income creeps up even slightly, that 0% can jump to 15% or more. Same asset, same gain, a different tax, depending on timing. So the perfect plan isn't static, it's dynamic. Each year becomes a small puzzle. How much do you withdraw? From which bucket? At what tax rate? And the answer changes every year. Now let's talk about something most people overlook, spending itself. Because the goal isn't just minimizing taxes, it's sustaining your lifestyle. And there's a quiet tension between the two. If you focus only on minimizing taxes, you might underspend early and overpay later. If you ignore taxes completely, you might overspend early and run into problems later. The balance is delicate, and it requires planning beyond just safe withdrawal rates. Speaking of which, the famous 4% rule, it's a useful guideline, but it doesn't account for taxes properly. It assumes a simplified world where withdrawals are neutral. But in reality, your withdrawal strategy can change your effective rate significantly. A 4% withdrawal could feel like 5% or shrink to 3% depending on taxes, which means the real safe withdrawal rate is partly a tax strategy. And here's the irony. The more money you have in tax-deferred accounts, the more fragile your retirement plan can become. Because large balances lead to large RMDs. Large RMDs lead to higher taxes. Higher taxes reduce flexibility. So the very accounts that helped you grow wealth can become a liability later, unless you manage them carefully. Zooming out, this isn't just about one person. This is a systemic issue. Millions of retirees are moving into this phase right now, with large 401ks, limited tax planning, and a belief that retirement automatically means lower taxes, which is often not true. In fact, for many people, retirement is when tax complexity peaks, not when it disappears. So what does the perfect $2 million retirement spending plan actually look like? It's not a fixed formula. It's a sequence. Early years, use low-income windows, do Roth conversions, balance withdrawals. Middle years, optimize Social Security timing, control taxable income, harvest gains strategically. Later years, manage RMDs, lean on Roth accounts, stabilize taxes as much as possible. Same $2 million, but treated like three different systems working together. And maybe the most important part, none of this feels urgent when you first retire. That's what makes it dangerous, because the biggest tax mistakes in retirement don't happen in a single year. They compound quietly over a decade. So here's the question that lingers. If two people can retire with the same money, live the same life, and end up with dramatically different outcomes, then what does having enough even mean if the system deciding your taxes is this sensitive? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think about what most retirement advice sounds like. Save more. Invest wisely. Don't run out of money. All true, but incomplete. Because it treats retirement like a finish line, when it's actually a transition into a different kind of system, and one where the rules quietly change. In your working years, taxes are mostly passive. You earn income. taxes happen. But in retirement, taxes become something you actively shape or ignore, and ignoring them is expensive. Let's go back to our two retirees. Same $2 million, same $80,000 lifestyle. One follows a simple withdrawal rule. The other treats each year like a controlled experiment, adjusting, calibrating, optimizing. At first, the difference is invisible. A few thousand here, a small tax saving there. Nothing dramatic, but over time, those small decisions start stacking, year after year, quietly, until one day, the gap is no longer subtle. One retiree hits 72, and suddenly their income spikes. RMDs kick in hard. As Social Security becomes more taxable, Medicare premiums increase. They didn't change their lifestyle, but the system changed around them. The other retiree, they saw it coming years earlier. They used that low income window. They trimmed down their future RMDs. They built a larger Roth cushion. So when 72 arrives, nothing spikes, nothing breaks. It's smooth, almost boring. And in retirement planning, boring is powerful. Now here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Tax rates themselves. We tend to assume they'll stay roughly the same, but history doesn't support that. Tax systems shift, policies change, deficits grow, and retirement can last 20, 30, even 40 years. That's a long time to assume stability. Also, part of the perfect plan isn't just reacting to today's rules, it's hedging against tomorrow's uncertainty. And that's what tax diversification really is. Not just having different accounts, but having options. The ability to choose how much taxable income you create each year. Because in retirement, flexibility is everything. The more control you have over your income, the more control you have over your taxes. And the more control you have over your taxes, the longer your money tends to last. But here's the catch. This level of control requires intention. It doesn't happen automatically. There's no default setting for tax-efficient retirement. In fact, the default path is often the least efficient one. Withdraw when you need money, but pay whatever taxes show up. Repeat, simple, predictable, and quietly costly. So the real question isn't, do you have $2 million? It's, how is that $2 million structured? How will it be unwound? And over what timeline? Because retirement isn't just about accumulation anymore. It's about distribution, sequencing, timing. And timing is where everything converges. Withdraw too little early, and you may face a tax surge later. Withdraw too much early, and you risk depleting assets too quickly. Convert too aggressively, and you spike your current taxes. Convert too slowly, and you lose the window entirely. There's no perfect answer, only trade-offs. Which is why the idea of a perfect plan is a bit misleading. It's not perfect because it eliminates taxes. It's perfect because it manages them, smooths them out, reduces the extremes, avoids the spikes. Because in the end, retirement taxes aren't just about percentages. They're about volatility, unpredictability, loss of control, and the best plans don't just minimize taxes, they stabilize them. So if you zoom all the way out, past the strategies, past the accounts, past the numbers, you're left with something simpler. Two people, same money, same life, different outcomes, not because of what they earned, but because of how they exited. And that raises a final, uncomfortable thought. If the hardest part of retirement isn't building wealth, but unwinding it efficiently, then why do so few people spend time planning that part until it's already too late?